All right. I do believe we're live. I'm a couple minutes late. I had to get a few things in order. Get me a drink. Shut off the AC so it don't come all through this condenser mic. Put on my pants, the usual. Let's play. Yeah, that means we're live, I think. Let's play a little bit of guitar to kick this thing off. I'm gonna play Telly tonight. Going digital tonight. We tried some amp stuff last night. I was a little bit crunchy, so I want to work on that. Get that more in order. Let's play this. Let me start this thing off because I always forget if I don't say it. Subscribe, y'all. Been doing this thing a while. I just started streaming recently. I'm digging it, man. Digging it a lot. It's been a little hit and miss. A lot of times, man, I don't get much time to warm up before I play, which makes a huge difference. But that's part of the crash and burn live stream vibe. Good shit. I always like this. I was working a lot on my country licks for a while. I've just been writing so much, country ain't what I play, but I like to put those kind of country licks, kind of like the Stones did. I like this bend right here where it... See, that's the thing about the digital amps. There's no feedback, so if you misfret something, you don't have nothing to fall back on. Putting some delay on helps. The delay right now is the strumming timeline. It's like tape delay, like an Echoplex setting, 325 milliseconds. Let's try this other thing. So, did I say like, subscribe, leave me a comment, tell me what you do. Do you have a studio? Do you play? Do you play live? Do you live stream live? Do you chat? Do you talk? I want to talk in this one about getting your music released, man, because it was something that if you grew up learning to play in the 90s like I did, then you, chances are, unless you got a record label deal, you weren't going to be able to get your music out there and heard in a way other than live. So, and it was a big budget type of thing to get your music out there. You could do, I guess, you know, recordings on like TX or Tascams or, you know, ADATs or whatever, and put them out there. And a lot of times if you were doing this thing yourself, it probably wasn't going to be the most high quality, like going to a recording studio. I'm playing the Telly tonight, by the way, because certain times of the year, my number one, this Les Paul R4, there's a cool story behind this guitar, and I'm going to tell you about it. It's one of the first R4s. It's not even, it's before they called them R4s. Before Gibson actually even recognized them as being released. It's the year before that, and it's a thing that, you know, involved Tom Murphy. Maybe we'll get into that a little bit. I've got a video on the channel about it. It's the Les Paul video if you want to check it out. It's pretty cool. It's a cool story, and I knew a little bit about it when I got the guitar, but I found out more by watching some stuff on it. Actually, there was a Dipped in Tone episode where they were talking to Tom Murphy, and he was talking a little bit about this project, how the reissues came about, and it was one of those type things that was early in the reissue thing, called Dealer Custom, and that's what that guitar is. But we'll play that in a little bit too. But I want to talk about some of the things that go into getting your music streaming, getting it up there and out there and in the world. And just know that even if you do that, it doesn't mean anyone's gonna hear it. You know, it gives it a better chance, but you've got to do a lot of work. Getting it out there to the streaming services is just the first step. If you want it to get heard, you've got to do a lot more work. Even though there's about 10 steps that go into getting it out there with the distribution service. You have to make the song, record it, mix it, master it, get your album cover right. That's one big thing that a lot of people get fucked up about, is the album cover, because if you do content creation, like if you do Instagram, you have a certain aspect ratio, the long, what is it, portrait mode aspect. If you do YouTube, you're making thumbnails a lot, which is let me get that back out, which is 16 by 9, 16, colon 9, whatever. That's the landscape aspect ratio. And those are both different than what you want for making an album cover. And like if you're with DistroKid, probably any of them want a, let me shut that amp stem off so it'll be a little less noisy. All of them want an album cover because you want an album cover. You want your shit to be legit. And so you've got to get this one-to-one. I'm making so much stuff here in my studio, I can usually just take a photograph of me tracking, or like I've used my son's artwork, different things to make album covers out of. But if you're excited to get your music out there and you're not expecting to have to do this, it's like it puts the brakes on for a minute. So the album cover aspect ratio is 1-to-1, perfect square, right? So you need to be thinking about this. Design you an album cover that's rad. Anything that's going to pull viewers or listeners into your music. And it's, that's just one part of the process. I wrote just a little bit of like things to hit. So DistroKid is a pretty good way to do it, I think. As good as any other. DistroKid isn't going to get you in sync licensing or anything like that. That's a whole different thing. Costs a lot more money from the way I understand, but it's cool if you want to do it. I've thought about it because I can make some pretty creative stuff that could go in TV, I think. You have to be confident in yourself if you're going to do this. And but sync is a whole different thing. DistroKid's cool for getting your music out on all of the streaming services. Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music. Even if you have a YouTube channel and you're putting, like I put videos of my songs on my YouTube channel, but the music goes to YouTube Music through DistroKid, so they're not linked really. You can link them, but it kind of creates some problems from what I understand, so I haven't linked mine. My channel name, if you're watching this, it's Thirsty Deer Studio. The name I put music out under is Thirsty Deer, so go check out some Thirsty Deer kick-ass music if you want to. I like it. It's not your standard 2025 fare of music, but it's got a cool little vintage vibe to it, I think, and it sounds good. Another thing about it is it really turns me on to a lot more new good music that is what I like, because for a long time I found it very difficult to find any new music that I was really into. And I guess the algorithms, see what you're putting out there and they send more suggestions your way that is that genre or that style, right? And I've really been liking a lot of this new music that I've been hearing because I've been putting out my music. Another important thing to think about if you're going to be making records is you want some good metering on your last output stage of your 2-bus, your master. You want something that's going to show you LUFS. And don't go by the recommendations of like -14 for streaming for LUFS unless you're Dolby Atmos. I think they are pretty stuck on that minus whatever it is, 14, 18, I don't know what it is. I don't do Atmos. I don't really think it's going to make it. It's cool for movies, but most people don't even have 2 speakers in their house, let alone 7, 8, 9, and I like stereo. It's the way it's been great till now. So But I like to use, there's one I use called the BX Brainworks Master Desk Pro. This gives you a clipper, some EQ, some limiting. It gives you some like de-essing, and it's got a glue knob, which is like, I guess, more like SSL compression, but then there's also a separate compressor on there, and you can link it from 0 to 100%. I like to leave mine unlinked a lot of the times, because a good thing to remember for stereos, they don't have to be perfectly together. That's what makes it stereo. That's why you play two guitar parts on opposite sides, and they're not the same guitar part going through 2 amps or something. It's 2 guitar parts, might be the same guitar part, but they're not perfect. Another thing I keep in mind like that is I use 2 different overhead mics. I have this mic over the ride cymbal side, this Twin 87 usually when I'm tracking drums, and I have a Royer R10 over the hi-hat side. So that's 2 different sides of the kit getting 2 different colorations of mics, and it works. My logic behind it is, for one, those are 2 of my best mics, and I want them up on the overheads. But the reason I choose this one for the ride and that one, the Royer for the hi-hat, is because it's harder to hold back on the hi-hat when you're grooving, and in the pocket. It's harder to hold back on the hi-hat than it is the ride for me. So I can kind of adjust my grip on the ride cymbal, and this microphone, this Twin 87, United Twin 87, is very sensitive. So it works out good like that, you know what I mean? And it's where I put it is right above the ride cymbal floor tom. You can even move your ride cymbal over a little bit, but it's picking up the whole kit that way. Like if you're going to use one mic, that's probably a really good place to put it. I also use a crotch mic, a kick drum mic, a snare mic, just top snare. No tom mics as of yet. I've done recordings with tom mics. I've found that the way I'm doing things now, having a crotch mic instead of a tom mic or 2 tom mics works better for what I'm doing, because the majority of my tom sounds is coming from my room mics. Actually, I love the resonance of the toms in the room, so I'll even sometimes automate the room mics up a little bit on a drum fill. It's you're just trying to get the best sounds wherever they come on the kit, and automation is a big part of making music. So keep automation in mind too if you're going to be releasing music. Just little changes like doing delay throws into the chorus, or on the vocal, or doing a big reverb swell and then bringing that back down into a verse, like building up and then like sucking it back down. I've done like bounces where I've reversed delays, and I'm not talking about using a reverse delay on like the Strymon timeline or something, or in the DAW. I'll take the reverb from the full drum kit reverb. Usually I have a reverb on the bus. Even if I'm not using it, I'll automate it, on an aux send. I'll automate it and get a good reverb sound for a certain section. Then I'll reverse it, and then you have to move it around in the track, and it'll be like this into the snare hit, like a sucking sound if you reverse the reverb. It's a cool thing. There's a lot of little tricks you can do to add just punctuation marks to certain things in the mix. And I think this is really important when you're creating music to do it. It's the little touches in the mix a lot of times that really sets them apart. Taking that little bit of extra time to do these things, just like my latest YouTube video was about the Royer R10 mic on guitar cabinets. Well, I had the Royer R10 over the drum kit for 3 months. I've had it for 3 months. I tried on guitar cabs, but I was like, I'm probably just going to use the 57 all the time anyway. So what's, you know, but I put it on my 4x12 cab, my Mesa dual rectifier, and man, played some drop tune stuff, which usually isn't me either, but just to, like, I figured, you know, if I'm going to play something, put it on a video through the Mesa, I'll do the chugging thing. I can do that. So I did that, and it just blew me away. Now I won't go back to single mic recording on my amplifiers because it's like an EQ, like an API EQ or something like that. Let's see, this says YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. I don't know, it was pretty good to me. We'll see. I think they're messing with me. It looks good. Maybe I had a little glitch in the matrix or something. I don't know. It's the first time that's happened. Let's type something.